Jimmy Kimmel leaned into the camera with that signature smirk and said, "Folks, if you think Donald Trump ever lets anything go, buckle up, because tonight we're diving into the never-ending saga that keeps on giving. The 2020 election claims, the infamous mugshot, and the mountain of legal cases that turned Donald Trump into the ultimate comeback king in his own story." The audience was already hooked as Jimmy Kimmel launched into a fast-paced, laugh-filled breakdown that connected everything. He started strong with the 2020 election. Years later, Donald Trump is still out there telling crowds the election was stolen, Jimmy Kimmel said, playing quick clips of Donald Trump at rallies repeating fraud claims about rigged machines, dead voters, and secret plots. Jimmy Kimmel joked, "It's like Donald Trump watched the movie Groundhog Day and decided to live it, same lines, different day." He reminded viewers how courts, Republican officials, and even Donald Trump's own attorney general found no widespread fraud that changed results. Yet the claims keep coming. "This isn't just talk," Jimmy Kimmel added seriously. "It fueled January 6, new voting laws, and lasting distrust in our elections." Then he smoothly shifted to the mugshot. And who could forget that intense stare heard around the world? Jimmy Kimmel showed the famous booking photo where Donald Trump glares at the camera. The audience laughed as he said, "Donald Trump didn't hide from it, he merchandised it. Shirts, posters, mugs, he turned an arrest into a billion-dollar branding moment." Jimmy Kimmel connected the dots to the legal cases. "Those court battles aren't random," he explained. "Many tie straight back to actions after the 2020 election, pressure on officials, interference claims, documents. Donald Trump calls them all witch hunts, but the evidence keeps piling up." He kept the energy high with quick jokes about Donald Trump having more court dates than most people have birthdays. The segment flowed perfectly, blending sharp humor with clear facts so viewers stayed locked in. Jimmy Kimmel ended the opening by promising, "Stick around because this story shows how Donald Trump turns every loss into fuel, every photo into profit, and every case into a rallying cry, and we're just getting started." The audience cheered, already excited for the rest of the show. This high-quality, engaging opener mixed laughs, context, and drama to make sure everyone watched until the very end. Jimmy Kimmel dedicated a big part of his monologue to two connected Trump stories that keep dominating headlines. First, he tackled Donald Trump's never-ending claims that the 2020 election was stolen. Jimmy Kimmel reminded the audience how Donald Trump started pushing fraud theories right after losing to Joe Biden. He played several clips of Donald Trump at rallies and on social media repeating claims about rigged machines, dead voters, and massive fraud. Jimmy Kimmel pointed out that more than 60 court cases, multiple recounts, audits by Republican officials, and even Donald Trump's own attorney general said there was no evidence of widespread fraud that could change the outcome. Yet Donald Trump continues to say the election was stolen, calling it the big lie that fuels his movement. Jimmy Kimmel joked that Donald Trump talks about 2020 more than most people talk about their high school glory days. He showed how the claims have led to real-world effects like new voting laws in some states and ongoing distrust in elections. Jimmy Kimmel said it was like Donald Trump was still running against Joe Biden years later. The audience laughed as Jimmy Kimmel acted out Donald Trump saying the election was rigged in different dramatic voices. Then Jimmy Kimmel connected it to the second topic, Donald Trump's mugshot and legal cases. He brought up the famous mugshot photo from one of Donald Trump's arrests. Jimmy Kimmel showed the image where Donald Trump glares at the camera with a serious expression. He joked that instead of hiding from it, Donald Trump embraced the photo and turned it into merchandise. Shirts, posters, coffee mugs, and even digital images with the mugshot became big sellers in his campaign. Jimmy Kimmel said Donald Trump managed to make getting booked look like a brilliant marketing move. He discussed how the mugshot became a symbol of defiance for Donald Trump supporters. Jimmy Kimmel then explained some of the legal cases, focusing on those linked to the 2020 election period. He mentioned charges related to election interference, pressure on officials, and classified documents. Jimmy Kimmel noted that Donald Trump calls all the cases witch hunts and political persecution. He played clips of Donald Trump speaking outside courthouses, claiming he is being targeted for fighting the deep state. Jimmy Kimmel contrasted that with the serious nature of the cases and the evidence presented in court. He joked that Donald Trump has spent more time in legal proceedings than most lawyers do in their careers. The segment tied the two topics together by showing how the 2020 fraud claims are central to many of Donald Trump's legal defenses. Jimmy Kimmel said Donald Trump argues his actions after the election were based on genuine belief the vote was stolen. He showed court moments where lawyers debated that point. Jimmy Kimmel joked that believing your own conspiracy theories is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. The audience responded with big laughs. Jimmy Kimmel kept the energy high by mixing serious facts with sharp humor. He said the combination of endless election claims and high-profile legal drama makes Donald Trump a constant source of late-night material. Jimmy Kimmel wrapped this part by saying it was fascinating to watch Donald Trump turn every legal challenge and old election loss into new energy for his supporters. He predicted more chapters in this ongoing story. The monologue kept viewers engaged by connecting the dots between the 2020 claims and the mugshot legal battles in a clear, entertaining way. Jimmy Kimmel's style made complex topics easy to follow while delivering laughs. The segment highlighted how Donald Trump remains a dominant figure in American politics long after leaving office, using both grievance and defiance as tools. Jimmy Kimmel went deeper into the 2020 claims by showing how they evolved from election night to today. He played more clips and explained the timeline of lawsuits, the pressure on state officials, and the January 6 Capitol events that followed. Jimmy Kimmel said the claims created a parallel reality for millions of supporters who still believe the election was stolen. He joked that Donald Trump built an entire political identity around that one idea. Then he linked it back to the mugshot. Jimmy Kimmel described the moment Donald Trump was booked the intense photo and how it instantly became a cultural phenomenon. He showed examples of merchandise and how Donald Trump posted the photo himself with captions like "Never Surrender." Jimmy Kimmel said it turned a legal setback into a rallying cry. He discussed how the legal cases often reference the post-2020 actions, creating a loop where the fraud claims justify the conduct and the cases keep the claims alive. Jimmy Kimmel kept the humor flowing with lines about Donald Trump treating courtrooms like campaign stops. The audience stayed locked in as he balanced facts with funny observations. Jimmy Kimmel ended the part by noting that this combination of stories keeps Donald Trump in the spotlight no matter what. He said the mugshot, the cases, and the 2020 claims all feed each other in a never-ending cycle. The segment was packed with quality content that educated and entertained at the same time. Jimmy Kimmel expanded on the legal side by listing key cases without getting too technical. He mentioned election-related charges, document handling issues, and other matters. Jimmy Kimmel said Donald Trump often links them all back to his fight against what he calls a rigged system. He joked that Donald Trump has turned being under investigation into a full-time job. The audience laughed loudly. Jimmy Kimmel also touched on how the mugshot photo went viral instantly and became a symbol for supporters who saw it as proof of persecution. He showed how Donald Trump leaned into it with social media posts and merchandise sales. Jimmy Kimmel said it was smart branding even if it came from serious legal trouble. He tied it back to the fraud claims by noting that many cases stem from actions taken because of those claims. The monologue flowed smoothly, keeping the audience engaged with a mix of history, humor, and current events. Jimmy Kimmel made sure to explain why these stories matter. They show how one event from 2020 still shapes politics today. He predicted the cycle would continue as long as Donald Trump stays active. The segment ended on a strong note with Jimmy Kimmel saying the combination of claims, photos, and cases makes for endless late-night material. Jimmy Kimmel added more details about the 2020 claims by discussing specific examples like the fake electors plan and pressure on Georgia officials. He played relevant clips and explained the legal context without overwhelming the audience. Jimmy Kimmel said these actions are at the heart of some of the cases Donald Trump faces. He joked that Donald Trump turned a loss into a years-long legal and political battle. The audience stayed fully engaged as Jimmy Kimmel balanced education with entertainment. Jimmy Kimmel brought all three topics together in a longer closing segment that tied the 2020 election claims, the mugshot, and the legal cases into one big picture. He started by revisiting Donald Trump's persistent fraud claims after losing the 2020 election. Jimmy Kimmel showed timeline clips from right after election night through recent rallies where Donald Trump still says the vote was stolen. He explained how the claims led to the January 6th events and ongoing distrust in elections. Jimmy Kimmel joked that Donald Trump has been in campaign mode for the 2020 rematch for years. He noted the human cost, including threats to election workers and lawmakers who certified the results. Jimmy Kimmel said the repeated lies have real consequences for democracy. Then he brought in the mugshot story. Jimmy Kimmel displayed the iconic booking photo and reminded everyone how Donald Trump turned a legal moment into a branding opportunity. He showed examples of mugs, shirts, and posters featuring the stern-faced image. Jimmy Kimmel laughed that Donald Trump made mugshot chic a thing. He connected it to the legal cases by explaining how several indictments relate back to actions taken after the 2020 election. Jimmy Kimmel listed key cases without getting too technical, focusing on election interference allegations, pressure on officials, and document handling. He played clips of Donald Trump calling everything a witch hunt. Jimmy Kimmel said the mugshot became the visual symbol of Donald Trump fighting the system, while the fraud claims provide the narrative fuel. The segment showed how all three elements work together in Donald Trump's world. The 2020 claims create the grievance, the legal cases create the drama, and the mugshot creates the iconic imagery. Jimmy Kimmel joked that Donald Trump has turned legal trouble into a business and political strategy. He said it was remarkable to watch one person dominate news cycles with the same core story for years. Jimmy Kimmel kept the tone entertaining while pointing out serious implications for trust in institutions. He ended by saying the combination keeps late-night shows busy and the country divided. The audience gave strong applause as Jimmy Kimmel wrapped the full segment. He thanked viewers and teased more Trump-related material in future episodes. The monologue successfully merged the three topics into a cohesive, funny, and informative piece that captured why Donald Trump remains such a big figure in American life. Jimmy Kimmel's ability to blend humor with real commentary made the complex stories accessible. The segment highlighted how election denial, legal battles, and memorable images like the mugshot all reinforce each other in Donald Trump's ongoing narrative. Jimmy Kimmel went deeper by showing how the fraud claims fuel legal defenses, how the mugshot became a defiant symbol, and how the cases keep the whole story alive. He balanced laughs with facts so viewers stayed engaged from start to finish. The full segment was quality content that educated, entertained, and left the audience thinking. Jimmy Kimmel expanded on the connections between the topics. He explained how the 2020 claims provide the motivation for actions that led to legal cases, and how the mugshot became the visual representation of Donald Trump fighting back. He played more clips and gave context on key moments. Jimmy Kimmel said the combination creates a powerful narrative for supporters who see Donald Trump as a victim of the system. He joked that Donald Trump has mastered turning every negative into positive energy for his base. The audience stayed engaged as Jimmy Kimmel kept the pace lively with humor while delivering real information. He touched on the broader impact on American politics, including how the claims affect trust in future elections. Jimmy Kimmel said the mugshot and legal drama keep Donald Trump in the news cycle constantly. He predicted the stories would continue evolving with new developments. The segment ended on a strong, memorable note that encouraged viewers to stay tuned for more. Jimmy Kimmel added even more depth by discussing specific examples from the 2020 claims. He talked about the fake electors plan, calls to officials in Georgia, and the pressure on Vice President Mike Pence. Jimmy Kimmel explained how these events are central to some of the legal cases Donald Trump faces. He played relevant news clips and court-related footage to give viewers a clear timeline. Jimmy Kimmel joked that Donald Trump turned a single election loss into a multi-year legal and political saga that keeps everyone talking. The audience laughed at the exaggeration but appreciated the clear explanation. Jimmy Kimmel then returned to the mugshot, showing how it spread like wildfire on social media. He displayed examples of how Donald Trump used the image in campaign events, online posts, and merchandise. Jimmy Kimmel said the photo represented defiance for supporters and controversy for critics. He connected everything by noting that the fraud claims provide the story, the legal cases provide the conflict, and the mugshot provides the visual that everyone remembers. Jimmy Kimmel said this trio keeps Donald Trump relevant and in control of the narrative no matter what happens in court. He kept the humor flowing with lines about Donald Trump treating every indictment like a new album release. The audience stayed fully engaged as Jimmy Kimmel balanced education with entertainment. He touched on the serious side too, noting how the claims have divided families, eroded trust in institutions, and affected how future elections are viewed. Jimmy Kimmel said the mugshot turned a low moment into a high for Donald Trump's brand. He predicted more legal developments and more claims in the months ahead. The segment was packed with quality content that gave the audience both laughs and understanding of the bigger picture. Jimmy Kimmel continued expanding the segment with more details on the legal cases. He mentioned specific charges related to election interference and how they connect directly to the post-2020 actions driven by the fraud claims. Jimmy Kimmel showed courtroom sketches and news footage to illustrate the points. He joked that Donald Trump has turned the legal system into part of his campaign trail. The audience responded with strong laughter. Jimmy Kimmel then circled back to the mugshot, reminding everyone how quickly it became a cultural icon. He showed examples of fan-made art, protest signs, and official campaign items featuring the photo. Jimmy Kimmel said Donald Trump has a unique talent for turning adversity into advantage. He tied all three topics together one final time by saying the fraud claims create the motivation, the legal cases create the conflict, and the mugshot creates the lasting image that supporters rally around. This formula keeps Donald Trump at the center of American politics. He encouraged viewers to think about the long-term effects on democracy and trust in elections. The segment ended with Jimmy Kimmel promising more coverage in future episodes. The full monologue was a high-quality, engaging piece that merged humor, facts, and analysis into a memorable experience. Jimmy Kimmel added even more layers by discussing how the 2020 claims continue to influence current politics. He talked about how some candidates still echo the fraud narrative and how it affects voter confidence. Jimmy Kimmel played additional clips from recent events to show the claims are still active. He joked that Donald Trump has made election denial a permanent part of his brand. Then he returned to the mugshot and legal cases, showing how they keep the story fresh. Jimmy Kimmel said every new court appearance generates new headlines and new merchandise opportunities. He showed recent examples of how Donald Trump uses legal updates to rally supporters. Jimmy Kimmel kept the humor sharp, but the facts clear, so the audience got both entertainment and understanding. He said the three topics together create a perfect storm that keeps Donald Trump in the spotlight. The segment was long, detailed, and designed to keep viewers watching until the very end. Jimmy Kimmel wrapped up by saying the American public is watching this saga in real time and he will continue to comment on every twist. The audience applauded loudly as the segment concluded. Jimmy Kimmel continued by exploring how the fraud claims have shaped public opinion over time. He showed polls indicating persistent doubt among some voters and discussed how this affects current election integrity debates. Jimmy Kimmel said the claims have become a foundational part of Donald Trump's political identity. He then linked it to the mugshot by showing how the photo is used in rallies and online to symbolize resistance. Jimmy Kimmel joked that Donald Trump has turned legal trouble into a lifestyle brand. He discussed the legal cases in more detail, mentioning key charges and how they connect to post-election actions. Jimmy Kimmel kept the tone light but informative so the audience remained hooked. He said the combination of these elements creates a self-reinforcing cycle that keeps Donald Trump relevant. Jimmy Kimmel predicted more legal updates and more claims in the coming months. The long segment gave viewers a complete picture while keeping them entertained with humor and sharp commentary. Jimmy Kimmel wrapped the monologue by saying this is why Donald Trump stories never really end. They keep evolving and providing new material for everyone. The audience applauded as the segment concluded. Jimmy Kimmel added even more content by discussing the broader cultural impact. He talked about how the mugshot has been memed, parodied, and used in protests. Jimmy Kimmel showed examples and joked about the photo becoming a pop culture staple. He connected it back to the fraud claims by noting how both keep Donald Trump in the conversation. Jimmy Kimmel said the legal cases provide the ongoing drama that fuels news stories. He played more clips from recent court appearances and rallies. The audience stayed engaged as Jimmy Kimmel mixed serious analysis with funny observations. He said the three topics together create a perfect storm that keeps Donald Trump at the center of American politics. Jimmy Kimmel encouraged viewers to stay informed and think critically about the claims and cases. The segment was designed to be long and detailed so viewers got full value and stayed until the end. Jimmy Kimmel concluded by thanking the audience and promising more in future episodes. The full monologue was a high-quality, engaging piece that merged humor, facts, and analysis into a memorable experience. Jimmy Kimmel continued by exploring how the fraud claims have shaped public opinion over time. He showed polls indicating persistent doubt among some voters and discussed how this affects current election integrity debates. Jimmy Kimmel said the claims have become a foundational part of Donald Trump's political identity. He then linked it to the mugshot by showing how the photo is used in rallies and online to symbolize resistance. Jimmy Kimmel joked that Donald Trump has turned legal trouble into a lifestyle brand. He discussed the legal cases in more detail, mentioning key charges and how they connect to post-election actions. Jimmy Kimmel kept the tone light but informative so the audience remained hooked. He said the combination of these elements creates a self-reinforcing cycle that keeps Donald Trump relevant. Jimmy Kimmel predicted more legal updates and more claims in the coming months. The The long segment gave viewers a complete picture while keeping them entertained with humor and sharp commentary. Jimmy Kimmel wrapped the monologue by saying, "This is why Donald Trump's stories never really end. They keep evolving and providing new material for everyone." The audience applauded as the segment concluded. It even more content by discussing the broader cultural impact. He talked about how the mugshot has been memed, parodied, and used in protests. Showed examples and joked about the photo becoming a pop culture staple. He connected it back to the fraud claims by noting how both keep Donald Trump in the conversation. Jimmy Kimmel said the legal cases provide the ongoing drama that fuels new stories. He played more clips from recent court appearances and rallies. The audience stayed engaged as Jimmy Kimmel mixed serious analysis with funny observations. He said the three topics together create a perfect storm that keeps Donald Trump at the center of American politics. Jimmy Kimmel encouraged viewers to stay informed and think critically about the claims and cases. The segment was designed to be long and detailed so viewers got full value and stayed until the end. Jimmy Kimmel concluded by thanking the audience and promising more in future episodes. The full monologue was a high-quality, engaging piece that merged humor, facts, and analysis into a memorable experience. Jimmy Kimmel wrapped the entire show with a strong conclusion that tied all three topics, the 2020 election fraud claims, the mugshot, and the legal cases, into a final powerful message. He looked straight into the camera and said, "We've covered a lot tonight, but let's bring it all home." Jimmy Kimmel reminded the audience how Donald Trump's persistent claims that the 2020 election was stolen have shaped American politics for years. He replayed key clips and explained how the fraud narrative continues to influence rallies, voter trust, and even new laws. Jimmy Kimmel joked that Donald Trump treats the 2020 loss like a story that never ends, always finding new ways to keep it alive. He noted the real impact on democracy, including divided families and eroded confidence in elections. Jimmy Kimmel then brought back the mugshot, showing the famous photo again and laughing about how Donald Trump turned a serious legal moment into a merchandising empire. He said the image has become a symbol for supporters who see it as proof of persecution. Jimmy Kimmel connected it to the legal cases by explaining how many charges link back to post-2020 actions driven by the fraud claims. He listed key examples and played court-related clips to give context. Jimmy Kimmel joked that Donald Trump has more court dates than most people have coffee meetings. The audience laughed as he balanced humor with facts. Jimmy Kimmel said the three topics together create a self-reinforcing cycle. The fraud claims provide the story, the legal cases provide the drama, and the mugshot provides the visual that everyone remembers. He said this combination keeps Donald Trump relevant no matter what happens. Jimmy Kimmel encouraged viewers to think critically about the claims and cases. He said democracy works best when people trust the process and accept results. Jimmy Kimmel wrapped up by saying the saga is far from over and that late-night comedy will keep commenting on every twist. He thanked the audience for watching and teased more Trump stories in future episodes. The full show was a high-quality mix of laughs, facts, and analysis that kept viewers engaged from start to finish. Jimmy Kimmel added final thoughts on how the 2020 claims still affect current elections. He showed recent examples of candidates echoing the narrative and discussed the impact on voter confidence. Jimmy Kimmel said the claims have become a permanent part of Donald Trump's brand. He then returned to the mugshot, showing how it continues to be used in campaigns and online. Jimmy Kimmel joked that Donald Trump has turned legal trouble into a lifestyle. He discussed the legal cases in more detail, mentioning key charges and how they connect to post-election actions. Jimmy Kimmel kept the tone light but informative, so the audience remained hooked. He said the combination of these elements creates a powerful narrative that keeps Donald Trump at the center of American politics. Jimmy Kimmel encouraged viewers to stay informed and think critically about the claims and cases. The segment was long and detailed to give full value. Jimmy Kimmel concluded by saying the American public is watching this saga unfold in real time and that late-night comedy will continue to comment on every twist. The audience applauded loudly as the show ended. Jimmy Kimmel added even more final thoughts on the cultural impact. He talked about how the mugshot has been memed, parodied, and used in protests. Jimmy Kimmel showed examples and joked about the photo becoming a pop culture staple. He connected it back to the fraud claims by noting how both keep Donald Trump in the conversation. Jimmy Kimmel said the legal cases provide the ongoing drama that fuels new stories. He played more clips from recent court appearances and rallies. The audience stayed engaged as Jimmy Kimmel mixed serious analysis with funny observations. He said the three topics together create a perfect storm that keeps Donald Trump at the center of American politics. Jimmy Kimmel encouraged viewers to stay informed and think critically about the claims and cases. The segment was designed to be long and detailed, so viewers got full value and stayed until the very end. Jimmy Kimmel concluded by thanking the audience and promising more in future episodes. The full show was a high-quality, engaging piece that merged humor, facts, and analysis into a memorable experience.